Grille in the Ville is this weekend. A ton of 2024, 2025, and even some 2026 commits on campus. We're going to talk about that here with Brian Smith on Locked On Gators.
You are Locked On Gators, your daily podcast on the Florida Gators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Gators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to the podcast. Happy Thursday. I'm Brandon Olsen. Find me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my written work with Whole Nine Sports, Giants Country, NFL 33. And joining me for today is going to be Brian Smith, Locked On's recruiting insider. Joining me now for Locked On Gators is Brian Smith, Locked On's recruiting insider. And I don't know if you knew this, Brian, but LinkedIn is the college recruiting sponsor across the Locked On Podcast Network. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Terms and conditions apply. And Brian, I don't know if you know this either, but this weekend is Grille in the Ville. It's the cookout that Florida does, and they bring in just a billion kids and they just have fun with it. But what is the important, and other schools do this, obviously. What is the importance of an event like this, not just by Florida standards, but just the importance of having a ton of targets on campus at the same time?
Got to talk about the relationship building. I mention it on this podcast a lot, and it's not going away. That's number one on the board for the staff, from the recruiting interns all the way up to Billy. You got to have people that feel comfortable, and that includes the player, mom and dad, their high school coach, their sister, their ugly uncle, whatever it is. Anybody that comes with them, they got to be treated very, very well. That's the start. And then the other part, something you and I discussed off air, these kids may know about each other and they may have met a little bit. Bonds are formed, and let's say a kid commits to Florida that's early, let's say September, they get some 25 prospect, a good player. If you already know him and after they meet each other, they go watch each other's film and all that. Trust me, that's a commonplace deal. Hey, this kid just committed. I know him. He's going to UF. Well, it's a build up the ladder kind of deal. And it's every school in the country that's trying to do it. I mean, I don't know a Power 5 school that's not trying to do this. And just like anything else, like a big game weekend and there's 4 big games, you're trying to get that kid to your campus. It's just who gets them there and who doesn't. Florida's list is insane. Both commitments, uncommitted, 24, 25, and even a few 26 kids, some of which are from key places in the state of Georgia. That's something you and I will probably discuss many times over the next couple of years. One of them is a kid from Buford High School, one of the best programs in the country. But it's a really important encompassing everything in one spot. This is who we are. This is what we're going to build. And the relationships is number one on the list, and it's probably all the way through number 10. So you could see a couple kids commit. You never know. Now that I say that, I'm not picking before anybody puts words in my Jamari Howard. If he commits, I will be shocked. Do not say that on my timeline. Do not inbox me or anything else. But kids like that come, Wardell, Mack, etc. Look, you and I were joking a number of times about the commitments that Florida got in June. We didn't see those coming. Nobody saw those coming. So I just want to save myself, give myself a little leeway there. I don't have any predictions for it, but again, this is another chance for a kid to be on campus. Why not? So I don't know how many times Jamari or Wardell's been there, but it's not their first. So this is an important time for them, but more about 25 and 26 prospects.
So obviously relationships matter, and both of these things are very important. But I'm curious if you land on either side of this for which is more important. Is it developing a relationship with the coach or the coaching staff, or with your fellow players that you'd be playing with? Because I know last week I had Fletcher Westfall on the show, and on the show he was very open, where he was just like, it came down to a few things, but one of the things that really sold me on Florida was his official visit, spending time with players that he's actually going to be playing with. Like he was like, yeah, my player host was Austin Barber, but I'm going to see him for like a year tops if we're on campus at all together. So for me, it was the relationships that I developed with fellow players. So do you fall on either side of which is more important, or are you just like dead even?
It depends on the kid. Some kids are more into the relationship with the coaches. And on the other side of that, some kids are totally into what's going to be happening socially. They're very much a social butterfly. They'll go out and about with the other players. Maybe Westfall's that guy. Some kids that are quieter, I'd imagine the coaching relationships would be more important. But that's actually a great question. Parents also, it's going to change for them. They're going to want to see some of the kids that their child would want to be. Now, they may not tell their son that, but I have those conversations with parents too. I've lost track how many times I've said or heard somebody say, I'm not letting my kid go to that school because of the idiots they've got there, or this, that, and the other. That happens. So everybody gets to meet. Not always a good thing, but it can also help get rid of some possible transfers down the line too. But again, relationships. So each kid will kind of figure out what's important to him. And this is a chance to start that path.
I'm just going to sit here and hope and pray that there are a bunch of parents going to Georgia and just like, don't go there because the idiots that are with them, because I've made the jokes before about, hey, Florida under Urban Meyer, they were prison you. That's Georgia now. So I'm hoping and praying that there's parents that are just like, nope, no shot. My kid ain't going there. I just can't have that. Just please. That's all I'm asking. Florida's doing their part. Like I said, they're doing their part. Other people need to step up here. But of the 2024 kids that are on campus, the huge majority of them are current Florida commits. There's 2 2024 recruits on campus this weekend that aren't Florida commits, and they're Jamari Howard and Wardell Mack. Is it safe to say that they're both going to be getting the full court press from both coaches and commits alike?
Is there another option? I mean, like it's like they're kind of the oddballs in the group. You know what I mean? It is very unusual. I was looking at a whole bunch of different lists from the north to the south, out west, etc. There's usually 4 or 5. They have 2. I'm not sure if that's good, bad, or indifferent because it's very unique. They're certainly going to get a lot of attention. Not that those 2 aren't used to it. They're top-notch corners, which we all know is, you can never have enough of those. But I'm curious which ones are like turned on by it, turned off by it. Like I know Jamari. I don't know Wardell, but I know Jamari, and he's a kid that's kind of whatever. So I have no idea how he's going to take that. But he's a South Florida kid. When he signs, I'll know where he's going. I don't care if he walks up to me 5 minutes before his announcement. If he tells me, I still won't believe him. He's that kid. The other kid, I don't know. He's a New Orleans kid. He plays against really good competition. He's very confident in himself. I doubt he's going to be swayed a lot. But if he's making the trek all the way from New Orleans to Gainesville, he's obviously very interested. Texas and LSU are the comp. That's heavy hitterville right there. So this is a very important visit for him as well, because if you're going to get a kid that out of New Orleans that LSU wants, you can't beat them. You've got to beat them, or he's just going to stay in state. So I'm more curious to see what he thinks of it than I am Jamari.
Yeah. When I was getting ready to do this recording with you, I was like, all right, I'm going to touch on Jamari here, but I know I'm not going to get anything other than who even knows. Like if he commits,
no clue.
If he commits, I will likely be going live to talk about it, but I will also be like, this could be as dated as a Jada Rashada thing in a couple months. Which that one, I was talking wild trash at like 1 a.m, and that went horribly for me. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps them find the right people for your team faster and for free. With simple tools like screening questions, it makes it easier for you to focus on finding the right candidates with the right skill sets and the right experience, so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and potentially hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. We know that Jamari Howard complete wild card. But if Florida can get Wardell Mack to commit in Gainesville, again, this is obviously, you don't know him personally, so this is just your opinion, but how confident would you be that they can not only fend off Texas, but fend off LSU? Because I feel like it's a little bit harder where you can't just bring the kid up for an unofficial every weekend. Like you can't just be like, okay, like come on up whenever you want. Like he's going from Louisiana to Florida, so it's not like it's a, hour drive or 2 hour drive or anything like that. So how confident are you that they could do it, and how difficult would it be to fend off LSU?
There are a lot of really unique parts to that. He's a corner. Where did Corey coach at before?
LSU.
That is unique. And I'm sure it's one of the reasons that he's considered. He probably knows every major 7-on-7 trainer, et cetera, in the greater New Orleans area. And there are some unscathed characters down there too, a bunch of them. So I don't know what's going to happen, but here's a little interesting tidbit. I'm not sure if this has ever happened before. Of all the visits that LSU hosted this summer, none of them were in-state recruits. They're saving all of those for, Death Valley on a game day is pretty dope. Now, whether you're a Florida fan, it's great. If Mack takes one of those visits, that's got to be interesting, whether it's unofficial, official, I don't care. That's going to be hard. But Corey's now at 4. I would love to hear the off-the-record conversations about that, because we all know Corey didn't leave in happy land, because he could have stayed, but he chose not to, and we won't delve into that now. That could be a very heated recruiting battle that I get to talk about after signing day, and I would love to. But I got to hear some more info first. But I think that's going to be a really interesting one, because Florida needs corners. LSU is LSU. Texas is trending well in recruiting. It's heavy hitters, man. This could be one of the more interesting recruitments at all of college football down the stretch.
And if you're Florida, how do you kind of even really approach recruiting both Jamari and Wardell? Because I feel like physically they're polar opposites. Like Wardell's way shorter, stouter, and Jamari, slender man over there. So I feel like they're very different physically, but they play at least both in the secondary, because I'm not even going to pretend we know long term where anybody's staying. But they both got Corey Raymond as well. So how do you really go about recruiting? Because I'm assuming he's going to have at least some point where he's recruiting them at the same time. But they're also very different recruiting pitches at that point because of their just physical differences.
I think Wardell could end up being, at least initially, a slot corner. Strong enough that the key with that is, can you play the screen game and take on physical guys? And most freshmen can, but he's a pretty tough kid, and he's New Orleans kid. I'll give them the nudge every time. And then with Jamari, he's the pure outside boundary receiver that either you got him or you don't. When you got a guy singled out to one side and they run like that little bunch formation, 3 guys on the other side, you got to single cover the other one. You better have a dude. If you don't, especially in the SEC, it's not going to end well at all. Like you're playing against Ole Miss or something, one of those big receivers. Oof, they can tell you what's coming. Nothing you can do about it. So that's why guys like Howard are so coveted. You must have 6'1" corners, or you're not going to be consistently successful in the Southeastern Conference. In most, even like ACC, Pac-12, it's all these conferences, they got receivers that'll go up and get it that are 6'2", 215. It's not fun being a DB. So I think they complement each other really well. If you were to get both, Howard could play either outside spot, and I think Matt could probably play the field and slot. That'd be a great combo. And again, Corey's not dumb. He knows he's a million more things about it than I do. And I bet you he has a plan in that regard. And he's got the other kid already committed, et cetera. Moving parts. One of them could end up at safety. That's okay. Let the chips fall where they may. I'll trust Corey once he gets the guys on the field at practice in Gainesville. He'll figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, not even just in the SEC, you mentioned the ACC. Florida State, 6'7" Johnny Wilson, 6'4" Keon Coleman. You need size.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, good luck to any team playing Florida State in the red zone this year. That's going to be a nightmare because they run RPO and stuff too. Yeah, that's going to be hard.
Yeah, just put 12 on the field and hope the refs don't see it. At that point, why not? Who cares? We spent a lot of time talking about 2024 here. Just moving on to the future, because this is a huge event with a lot of 2025 and 2026 kids there. How important is this event for that? Just again, we talk about relationships all the time, but you have some elite kids coming to campus. You've got a 2026 QB coming to campus, and you've got time with your coaching staff and the kids who, by the time the 2025 kids get on campus, a lot of these 2024 kids are probably going to be starting. And by the time the 2026 kids get on campus, most of the 2024 kids that are still in Gainesville are going to be starting.
Well, let's just go over a couple names and some of the kids I know. Waltez Clark from Plant, DJ Pickett from Zephyr Hills. I'll come back to him in a second. Jalen Wiggins is a dude. He's out of Tallahassee. He's like, when you walk up to him, that's a grown man that's just barely 16. Some of these kids, when you see them and like their size, Owen Strebig's coming down from Wisconsin. He's massive. I expect him to end up north, but if he visits Florida, you never know. That's what we said about all these other kids. You never know. You get all these kids on campus to see what's going on. Hey, we've got a top 5 class now in 24. Here's your chance to start it off for the next class, and you can be a part of the Gator resurrection, or whatever you want to call it. I'm sure they'll have some funky name for the 25 group. They always have whatever. I'm not into all that, but kids love it, or they wouldn't do it. The bottom line is they keep getting these kids to come back, and they've got this long list of 25. Like their 25 group's about as good as it is in the country that are coming for one of these barbecues or whatever the heck it is. And they didn't do that overnight. That's a lot of work. I can't even think like of a school. Maybe Alabama's or Georgia's better, but I'm not sure that's the case. Kobe Howard's coming. He's one of the best receivers in the country. He's was in Pensacola. Now he's down in South Florida. All these guys are going to get their taste of being around the group. They're going to get to meet players, obviously the coaches and Napier, et cetera. It's important because they're coming on their own dime. It's an unofficial. And I think it's just a way for them to kind of understand where they want to go early on, at least get a feel for it. Because these are kids that I'm talking about that got the invite from Georgia, Miami, Auburn, Alabama, all these kids that I just mentioned, they had those opportunities. They chose UF. Now they're on the list. Do they actually come? One thing to say it, it's another thing to do it. That's the other thing. Got to follow up. Hey, who showed up, who didn't, who acted in a certain way, etc. I'm curious to see what happens because these are elite players. To that point, just to give an example, DJ Pickett is coming. He's from Zephyr Hills High School. It's on the edge of Tampa. When I saw him play in 8th grade, this is no lie. I've scouted forever. He's the rarest DB I've ever seen at a young age. In 8th grade, as a 6'1" corner, shutting down kids in the greater Tampa area, I would have taken him at an SEC school in 8th grade. These are elite players. So now he's a 6'4" safety, but he's got 50 offers. If you get kids like that on campus, there's going to be a stir. Just having him there, he's a national top 10 kid conservatively. It matters. It gives you juice. That's the other part of this. It's great to have a bunch of kids, but when you got the elite kids like DJ there, that matters, bro.
I feel like recruiting is just like moving further into the future. Like it's late July and Florida's got the huge majority of their class already committed. I feel like with that, it's like, if you can get a 2025 or 2026 kid to commit, how difficult is it to get them to actually maintain that commitment at this point? Because Florida had a 2025 commit and he reclassified in 2023, went to Ole Miss. So there's that. So how difficult is that to actually maintain that commitment if you're on this coaching staff where you still have to focus on wrapping up 2024, but you also have to, at this point, kind of start building for 2025?
It's a great question, and this answer is dependent on where you are. The following is not meant as a slight, but it is what it is. By far, no second place. The state of Florida, the kids are the most fickle and biggest pain in the butts to deal with. It's not even close. They do not value the word commitment. They just don't as a general rule. It's the worst in South Florida, but Tampa and Orlando kids can tend to be that way too. But are you going to tell DJ Pickett no if he wants to commit? Hell no. It's just the way, I mean, elite players have their own timeline. Drives coaches bananas. Too bad. You're making millions of dollars. Figure it out. That's how I look at it. I feel no pain for them. Sometimes, believe me, they bitch to guys like me too about dealing with the kids. And it's one of the reasons a lot of college guys are going to the NFL, even if it's an analyst job. They don't want to deal with the NIL and all. And I get it. I get it. But if you're going to stay, this is the stuff we're seeing now. Like there's close to 15 commitments from quarterbacks in 25. That is not what quarterback coaches want. The problem is once one guy gets like an elite player to commit somewhere, the dominoes fall. Are you really done evaluating yet? No, they got 2 years left. They're at the most difficult position in sport. But if you wait, it's rough. So there could be some more dominoes. If the 26, I don't even know who he is, but if the 26 quarterback commits, that's going to bother me. Like when you take quarterbacks that early, there's just so many things that can go wrong. Most of the kids that commit early don't end up panning out. I don't know why that is at the quarterback spot, but there could be a few exceptions. I wish we would get back to at least juniors, but right now it's kids that aren't even quite juniors yet that are picking up offers and committing at quarterback. So you're right. And that's especially like skill guys, it's not as big a deal. Running back, wide receiver, corner. Like we knew Jamari Howard was a guy a long time ago. You know what I mean? That's not rockets. Kobe Howard, I knew he was going to be an elite Power 5 kid after seeing him in 3 reps in front of me. 3 reps. I'm like, this is ridiculous. I don't need to. And I started watching the other kids. And that's when he was a freshman in high school. So certain guys just stand out like that. But yeah, it's important for Billy and all these guys because, like I said, these other schools are doing it. So either you keep up with that pace or you get left behind. And he's chose the other path. It's what he's got to do.
Thank you so much, Brian. This was Brian Smith, Locked On's Recruiting Insider. Catch him all throughout the Locked On College channel and every week here on Locked On Gators. Thanks for making Locked On Gators your first listen of the day. We are available daily and free wherever you listen to podcasts. We'll be back tomorrow with Brandon Carroll. We're talking offensive pass catchers is what we'll say, or skill positions, whatever you'd like to call it. But for Locked On Gators, I'm Brandon Olsen. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at WNS_Brandon. Find all my work with Whole Nine Sports, Giants Country, NFL 33, and I'll see you all tomorrow.